officials in a positive manner. Profanity, racial, or ethnic comments, or other intimidating actions directed at officials, student-athletes, coaches, or team representatives will not be tolerated and are grounds for removal from the site of competition. Thank you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's meet the participants for Game 1. First, for the visiting team, the Tulsa Golden Hurricane. The head coach in his 13th season, John Barfield. The associate head coach, Chrissy Strimple. Assistant head coach, Sandra Smith. And volunteer assistant head coach, Brian Howard. And now for the Tulsa non-starters. Number 4, Madison Higley. Number 11, Marissa Olmos. Number 13, Jesse.
The 2018 American Championship should be one for the books after one of the tightest regular seasons since the conference's inception. The top seed and regular season title was in contention until the very last minute on Sunday, as USF was able to clinch the outright spot with a 3-1 victory over Wichita State. Hosting the tournament will now be even sweeter for the Bulls as they look to etch an already likely NCAA tournament bid in stone. At 36-20 and 14-6 in the American, USF sports 5 first-team all-conference selections, including co-pitcher and Rookie of the Year Georgina Korick. USF is seeking its first American tournament title and a conference-best 14th NCAA tournament appearance. The Bulls open the tournament against the number 8 seed UConn, who they previously swept in the opening weekend of conference play in March. Houston propelled itself into sole possession of the second spot in the standings with a series sweep of Memphis. The Cougars are the number 2 seed for the second straight season and are also seeking their first ever American championship after dropping to Tulsa in the title game last season. Co-pitcher of the year, Savannah Hebner, has been one of the nation's most dominant in the circle all season, consistently ranking in the top 15 in ERA and topping the conference in that category. Houston will meet number 7 ECU in Thursday's quarterfinals, having taken 2 from the Pirates earlier this spring. In its first year in the American, Wichita State made an immediate impact and was in contention for the regular season title until the season's final outing. The Shockers boast one of the league's best offensive infields, including Player of the Year Mackenzie Wright at third base. The senior batted a blistering .455 with 30 hits in conference games this season and joins teammate Lori Joricho and Bailey Lang on the first team. The Shockers will open against the 2-time defending champions in number 6 seed Tulsa, which with the likes of last season's Pitcher of the Year Emily Watson and 2018's Defensive Player of the Year Riley Spell behind the plate, should challenge from the get-go. The 4-5 matchup will feature UCF and Memphis, with the Tigers looking to avenge a series loss to the Knights earlier in the season. UCF is fresh off a season-ending sweep of ECU, but will meet a strong offense in Memphis that is currently tied for the program record with 36 wins. One more victory would make the 2018 Tigers the winningest team in program history. To follow along with the softball action this week, head to Twitter and follow American_SBALL and tune in live the first 2 days on Facebook with the championship final airing on ESPN2 at noon Eastern on Saturday. For the American Digital Network, I'm Haley Outen.
43, Haley Martinez. Number 77, Kaylee Becker. And number 88, Bethany Canada.
And live from Tampa, Florida at the University of South Florida campus, it's day 1 of the American Softball Championships as we have a quarterfinal action between the number 3 seed Wichita State Shockers and the number 6 seed Tulsa Golden Hurricane. I'm Eric Lopez alongside former Houston standout Cindy Gerbach. And boy, what a year for the conference, Cindy. The American Conference rated the number 4 conference in the college softball. And one of the big reasons is the newcomer, Wichita State. They bring in an explosive offense led by the American Conference Player of the Year, Mackenzie Wright.
That's right, Eric. And adding Wichita State made a huge difference in terms of the way the conference ended up performing. They ended up dethroning Houston in terms of their offensive numbers, leading in multiple offensive categories. You said it, Mackenzie Wright is going to be the player to watch on this Shocker squad.
They're new to the American Conference, but their opponent is very familiar. It's the Tulsa Golden Hurricanes. They're 175 miles apart. The Hurricanes are the defending two-time conference tournament champions, and one of the big reasons is their leadoff hitter, Julia Hollingsworth.
That's right, and Julia Hollingsworth is going to be the pinnacle leadoff batter, right? She sets the table. She's going to be one of those players that is the energy creator, the catalyst, you could say, for this Tulsa team offensively.
Of course, these two teams very familiar with each other. This is their 50th all-time meeting, so it's very unique. Of course, Tulsa, their senior class, they have played for the championship in this conference tournament all 3 years prior. They are the last two champions. How big of a factor is that? Tulsa has been here, done that as far as the conference tournament, whereas Wichita State's kind of the newbie.
Well, I think that it goes to show all the experience that you have on this Tulsa squad. You want to make sure that we'll go ahead and take a break.
We'll take the national anthem right now. We're set with that. We're set to go. But, of course, this Tulsa team, they've been here, done that, as I mentioned, in the conference championships. Wichita State, this is their first ever game in the American Softball Championship Tournament.
That's true, and you spoke to it earlier. This is a seasoned Tulsa team, right? They're used to being in this conference tournament, and they're used to going all the way, going to that championship game and taking the title. Wichita State has come in and made an impact, not only for the conference, but again in those offensive categories. And so it's going to be interesting to see the teams that we thought that were going to do well. Tulsa originally slated in preseason polls to finish first, actually finishing sixth. And then Wichita State coming in and being such a powerhouse offensively, exactly how this all ends up shaking out for the championship game.
You see John Barfeld there. What are some of the keys here, Sydney, for both Tulsa and Wichita State? Let's start with the Shockers. What do they got to do here? They got to hit with runners in scoring position, don't they?
Yeah. In terms of offensively, we've seen the Shockers take a little bit of a downhill, right? So their run production really needs to be on par here with what they've done all season long. They have to make Watson work, make her uncomfortable, make her throw more pitches than she's used to throwing, and then having that timely hit, making sure they're hitting with runners in scoring position. That's going to make the big difference, especially in these lower scoring ball games, because it's not going to be a surprise what they're seeing from Watson, and she's definitely not surprised what she's seeing from Wichita State.
What's going to be the keys here for Tulsa?
Tulsa is going to need to keep Wichita State in the park, and we'll talk about this a little bit later in the game, but Wichita State only hit 2 home runs in this USF park, so their run power is going to be a little bit different. And then they also need to put pressure on the Wichita State defense. The Wichita State defense, with their offense, has taken a little bit of a dip too. They continue making errors, about 11 errors out of the last 10 games, so that's going to be a big difference for Tulsa to make them make mistakes.
We're set to go here from Tampa, Florida, and the American Softball Championships are underway as the first pitch is a strike delivered by Bailey Lang, the ace for the Shockers, facing Julia Hollingsworth, the team leader in hitting 387, first team all-conference. And Hollingsworth hits one to deep right field, back at the wall, and it's gone! See ya! What a way to start the American Conference Softball Championships as Julia Hollingsworth hits a home run to give the Golden Hurricanes an early 1-0 lead.
And just a great piece of hitting there from Hollingsworth. Exactly what we've come to expect from her all season long, but This is exactly what you need in this tournament situation. We talked about how seasoned this senior class is going to be. They just showed their prowess here in this championship setting.
A stunning start here in the championships. Hollingsworth with her 3rd home run of the season. Tulsa not known for the long ball, as Morgan Neal takes a strike, but what a strike early on here to take a 1-0 lead on Hollingsworth home run. We said she was going to be the key to the offense, and boom.
Well, and she does a great job as the leadoff batter as setting the table. She capitalized on a pitch that she saw well, and she drove it out of the park. And it's important to note that Tulsa is a really well-coached team. It is rare that they go into a game, if ever, that they go into a game without a very specific game plan. And we saw that well executed by Julia Hollingsworth.
Pitch is high, and the count is 1-2. Bailey Lang, of course, 18 wins this year, 18-11 with a 2.81 ERA, the junior, but struggled against Tulsa. They played earlier this year in Wichita, April 6th through the 8th. Tulsa won the series, 2 out of 3. Lang started 2 games. She gave up 9 earned runs in 7 innings in those 2 games combined. So Tulsa's had success against Lang.
Well, and Lang's not necessarily going to blow you by with velocity. What she does well with her curve, working on both sides of the plate, and then she also gets a rise for a great swing and miss. Same thing with her changeup, able to throw it for a strike and also for that swing and miss pitch. So it doesn't surprise me here that Tulsa goes in and knows what pitch they're choosing, and they lay off everything else. They do a very good job of being disciplined, and we know that when they are a disciplined team, that is when we see the most run production from them.
Lang gets the strikeout of Neal here for the first out in the 1st inning. That'll bring up Shelby Estacado to the plate. Estacado hitting .355, leads the team with 7 home runs and 40 RBIs. She's their big power bat. The senior will step in here. Of course, Estacado, such a great athlete, could play the outfield, could play the infield.
Yeah, we've seen her when we were in Tulsa for the American Conference game on the digital network earlier this season. Estacado was actually in center field. They've now moved her over to 3rd base, where they found a little bit of a vacuum over there because Maggie Withy, who graduated last year, rarely made an error over there. And so they've been trying to figure out exactly what they're going to be doing on the left side of the infield and how that's going to be remedied. And there we go with that off-speed pitch there from Lang, able to throw it for a strike and for a swing and miss pitch. But Estacado has been able to step up in multiple areas of her game so far in her senior campaign, and showing that she can play both infield and outfield is just another example.
Count is 3 balls and a strike to Estacado. Is playing 3rd base today. Tulsa, of course, always one of the best defensive teams. Estacado, of course, part of these last 2 conference tournament titles for the Golden Hurricane. Swings, gets jammed, and hits a fly ball to center, as Asia Weber is under it to make the catch for the 2nd out of the inning. So 2 gone here in the 1st inning, and I bring up Haley Mighton, who's playing left field today, hitting .309 with 5 homers and 29 RBIs on the season. If there's going to be power from the Tulsa lineup, it's going to come from this part of the lineup. Riley, and that's really, they're not known for that, although Hollingsworth certainly got him off to the great start with the solo homer. His first pitch is in there, a strike for Lang. How big of a factor? Even though Wichita State is new to this conference, these 2 programs know each other. They've played each other every year in midweeks, even when they were in different conferences. They go back over 20 years ago when they were in the same conference in the Missouri Valley. So these programs know each other very well.
They do, and I think that's actually what makes this matchup even more exciting, right? So we know that they've seen each other they've had the opportunity to see each other 3 times so far, having moved in the same conference. We know previously they've played at least a doubleheader, probably for the past 4 or 5 years. But what's great about this matchup is that there aren't any surprises. So there's going to be a level of gamesmanship that you're going to see between these 2 teams. And it's, at the end of the day, it's not necessarily which team by looking at the numbers who's the best. It's going to be which team executes the best today, especially in this 1st game.
The 1-2 pitch is inside. 2-2 now, the count to the junior. Here in the top of the 1st, Tulsa with a 1-0 lead on the solo homer by Julia Hollingsworth to start this championship off. And now Lang, the 2-2 off speed, hits one to right, but playable as the catch is made to end the inning. Nice job by Nickerson, the right fielder, to come in there. But Tulsa strikes first on a solo home run by Julia Hollingsworth. And at the end of a half inning, it's Tulsa 1 and Wichita State coming to the plate here on the American Digital Network.
When learning creates leaders, ideas are ignited, focus gets sharper, and service can
Power comes in all forms. Power is a big tackle, a big save, a clutch hit, and a game-winning shot. Power is also standing up for what is right. Power is respecting an opponent, officials, student athletes, coaches, and team
Welcome back to the American Digital Network's coverage of the American Softball Championships. The first of 4 games today is Tulsa and Wichita State. The Tulsa with a quick 1-0 lead on the home run by Hollingsworth. The Shockers will come to the plate, and Sydney, this is an offense led by Mackenzie Wright, #1 in a lot of the offensive categories in the American Conference, including runs scored, and Wright's a big part of that.
And well-deserved Conference Player of the Year. We saw she's led the American average, batting .455 within conference. Has 30 hits during this her conference performances. Total bases of 46. Mackenzie Wright, she's aggressive. She's a free swinger, and she capitalizes on mistakes. So much, in fact, that she rarely misses them.
First pitch is up high, ball 1 from Emily Watson, last year's American Softball Pitcher of the Year, All-American, one of the greats in Tulsa softball history, in the top 10 in numerous of pitching categories, 20-11 this year with a 1.68 ERA. She was the tournament MVP last year when Tulsa won the championship in Greenville, as Watson delivers a strike, and is still one of the best in the sport in the conference. Made second team all-conference this year, which tells you the depth of the pitching in this league, but not a better big game pitcher in this conference than Emily Watson, whose lifetime is 5-0 in American Conference tournament games in her career.
I think that is a great way to pay homage to the career that Emily Watson has had thus far. Right? She what makes her successful is that she keeps the ball low, regardless of where she's throwing it, unless she's throwing the rise for that swing and miss pitch. I've only really seen one team do really well against her rise ball, and that was USF, and where they were able to come into the game plan and get on top of it. But other teams, they struggle with it.
Wright drops one into left, and it catch is made for the first out of the inning. Nice play there by Haley Minham, the left fielder. That ball was kind of dying in front of her, but she makes the catch for the first out.
That's a really good, it's a great choice there by Mackenzie Wright, and that's a great play by Minham. I mean, if she takes a step back or the wrong way, any sort of misstep or miscue there, that ball's actually hit on the ground. It's an easy single for Wright, but well played there and a good read by Minham.
Asia Weber now, the center fielder, was swinging a miss, or fouled it off, hitting .264 on the year, 3 homers and 16 RBIs on the season. But not a surprise, Tulsa is one of the top defensive teams in the country. They've always been a strong defensive team under John Barfield. No different this year. #1 in the conference, and I believe they're in the top 40 in the country in fielding percentage and fewest errors. That's how good. So they don't beat themselves.
No, they don't, and that's one of the things, too, their consistency defensively, either from the pitching perspective and from a defensive perspective. You said it. I mean, their .979 fielding percentage, they lead the American, and it's when they combine that killer defense with the prowess of Emily Watson and the Tulsa pitching staff that they're able to keep the run count of their opponents so low. In contrast, on the offensive side, they also they've had trouble scoring runs. So a lot of their games have been that 1-0, have been that 1-0 margin. Now last year, those 1-0 games more often than not went in Tulsa's favor. This year, we've seen a shift, and they are starting to go away from falling in their favor.
Watson gets the strikeout to get Weber for the second out of the inning, and you don't have to play defense when you got a pitcher like Watson blowing past the hitter there.
You sure don't. And that's one of the things, too, about Watson. Not only is she very precise with her pitches and the placement, but she is one of those pitchers that is able to blow it by you. She gets into the mid and upper 60s. She throws the ball hard. She throws a heavy ball. So when it comes off your bat, sometimes even if you hit it well, it feels like you've hit a boulder.
Lori Dureco, the junior, hitting .296, 11 home runs, 35 RBIs, is at the plate for the Shockers. She leads the team in homers and RBIs. The right-handed hitter against Watson swings, and it's a comebacker to Watson. She'll throw to first, and it's a 1-2-3 inning for Emily Watson and the Tulsa Golden Hurricane as they get the Shockers in order here in the bottom of the first. No runs, no hits, no errors, and at the end of one, it's Tulsa 1, Wichita State nothing.
For Tulsa, the designated player, number 21, Sarah Myers.
Welcome back to the American Digital Network's coverage of the American Softball Championships. Bailey Lang throws the strike to Sarah Bryers, who will lead it off here for the Golden Hurricane. It's Bryers, Shannon Hughes, and Riley Spell, 5, 6, 7 in the lineup for Tulsa here against Bailey Lang. Eric Lopez here alongside Sydney Gerbach. Sydney, you participated in the American Softball Championships in Houston in 2014 and at UCF in 2015, so you know what these players are like. What's it like to play that first game and be a part of a softball championship tournament style with single elimination?
Well, and you said it right, single elimination. I actually love that format, the fact that you need to execute and get it right the first time. And do what it takes to win in those first games. And what is great is that, in Houston, we did not perform well that 2014 year on our home field. So we actually had to watch somebody else win on our field, which was definitely a struggle. However, what I will tell you is that getting to the championship game or even the semifinal games, postseason is a whole other animal. And you play all year for this moment. This is why you compete. And so this is the time where you really see who rises to the occasion and often who comes in clutch, even if they necessarily haven't done well all year.
Shannon Hughes at the plate after Bryers popped up to second for the first out here in the second inning. And now Hughes at the plate with an 0-1 count, swings and pops it up towards third. Mackenzie Wright under it, makes the catch for the second out of the inning. So 2 quick outs here in the second inning. That'll bring up Riley Spell, the Defensive Player of the Year in the American Softball Championships. And as you look at the replay, Mackenzie Wright right there making an easy catch. And that's if you're Bailey Lang, that's what you want. Little pop-ups, kind of jam some hitters.
Yep. I mean, when we talked about it, the biggest differences between these two pitchers is, you're not going to get the same strikeout count with Bailey Lang as you are with Emily Watson, but Bailey Lang doesn't rely on strikeouts to be a great pitcher. What she does well is she gets that swing and miss and those miss hits and allows her defense to work behind her.
A ball and a strike to count to Spell. Is a Defensive Player of the Year, but can also swing the bat with 7 home runs and 19 RBIs on the season. As the junior right-hander against Bailey Lang. And Spell drops a base hit into left center field. A 2-out single for Spell. And Tulsa has a runner on at first with 2 outs. Here in the top of the second, good piece of hitting there by Spell.
We'll go ahead and take a look at that one more time. She executes well on an inside pitch. We've seen a lot of these Tulsa hitters taking their hacks at these inside pitches. So we're already seeing the breakdown of what their game plan is. They're swinging hard at inside, really laying off outside unless it's a strike, and they have to swing at it with 2 strikes in their at-bat.
And the first pitch is popped up to short, under it, and making the catch is Direcko to end the inning. Tulsa strands a runner, no runs, a hit, no errors, and 1 left on. We're through an inning and a half here in Tampa, Florida. It's Tulsa 1-0 here in the American Digital Network. Welcome back. Bottom of the second inning here in the American Softball Championships in Tampa, Florida. Bailey Lang, the pitcher for the Shockers, will lead it off and getting to hit cleanup today. That tells you how great of an athlete she is, hitting .299 with 7 homers and 21 RBIs, and she takes low for a ball 1. But not often you see a pitcher hitting in the cleanup spot.
That's true, and I'm impressed by Bailey Lang's athleticism. The fact that whenever she's not on the mound, she has a solidified spot, not only in the lineup, but in the outfield. You don't see that very often. And again, it's a nod to her athleticism and her well-roundedness as a player to be able to contribute on multiple sides of the game.
Of course, Lang is a junior, but this is her first year with Wichita State. She transferred from Northern Iowa and has been a tremendous plug-in for the Shockers as there's a strike. A Wichita State team that, you know, people wondered how they would do moving over in their first year from the Missouri Valley into the American Conference in softball. And they've been a huge part of the reason of the success of this league being the 4th-rated conference in college softball. Wichita State has been a huge part of that as the 1-2 is grounded to first. An easy play there for the first baseman there for the first out of the inning. Stafford touched the bag, and Lang is out for the first out. That'll bring up Riley Buck. But you look at Wichita State, they're a really strong team, but here a ground out, a nice play defensively.
And it just looks like she was trying to waste that pitch with that swing, and it just got on the wrong side of the line there. And that's one of the reasons why, as a player, you have to be taking your hacks, and you have to be intentional with them, right? So if you're not swinging for the fences every single time you decide to swing, you're not committed, and it's going to affect your result.
Riley Buck now at the plate, the sophomore out of Wellington, Kansas. That's 34 miles away from the campus of Wichita State. Of course, she is from the state of Kansas, was the Gatorade High School Player of the Year in her senior year as she fouls that pitch off. Second team all-conference this year for Buck, hitting .313 with 6 homers and 28 RBIs. And has really made the adjustments to Division I college softball after struggling in her freshman year with Wichita State, hitting a .175 as she fouls that pitch back.
Well, and talk about a player who can make adjustments. Big differences we've seen from Riley Buck this year in contrast to the past is she knows what she's looking for. She settles into her at-bats better. She's a pull hitter, so she naturally gravitates towards the left side. But she is going to be a player that knows what she's looking for going into each and every at-bat, and that's often what makes the difference, is having that that game plan player to player, and trusting that what you're great at as a player is what you're going to see in your at-bat.
Great athlete, played on the U.S. women's baseball team in 2015. She's down in the count 1-2. And gets a piece of it and fouls it off against Watson. But I was talking about the impact the Wichita State's brought to the conference. They've got wins against Oklahoma State. They swept Oklahoma State 2 games this year in a home and home. They've beaten Arkansas. That's why one of the reasons why they have a high RPI. They've got the tremendous wins. As Coach Brett Bender right there, you see her, has done a magnificent job at Wichita State. As Buck goes down on strikes, as Watson goes upstairs and gets the strikeout for the second out of the inning.
Watson able to come in with that rise ball. Again, she works a really great vertical ladder with it. She's able to throw it out of the zone. She's able to throw it for something that looks really juicy, looks like something that's going to cross the plate, and you just can't not swing. So
that'll bring up, you're right, Bailey Nickerson now, the freshman, hitting .252 with 7 homers and 27 RBIs. Takes ball 1. 1-0 the count to Nickerson. And of course, Watson, coming into this game, 7th in the country in strikeouts, had 264 on the season. So no surprises that she's getting some strikeouts. In one of the wins against Wichita State earlier this year, she had 11 strikeouts against the Shockers. There's a foul pitch, and now, as she is now right there evening the count at 1-1. She is definitely really improved from her freshman year on.
Well, and I think, too, we noted how important it was going to be for these two teams matching up in the first round of this tournament. It's not a surprise what Emily Watson is going to be throwing to the Shockers. So I'm actually surprised that they haven't been able to jump on her and whatever pitches she's throwing, commit to a game plan in these first couple at-bats. And the fact that we've seen Tulsa come out guns a-blazing and making sure they're setting the tone offensively. So it'll be interesting to see what adjustments, not only in bat, but throughout the game, that this Wichita State offense will make in order for them to keep their spot here in the American Athletic Conference Tournament.
Of course, Watson, it's easier said than done when her pitches are moving like that drop ball. It's tough. I mean, she is one of the best in the country. She's going to go down as one of the greats in Tulsa softball history. And she delivers the 1-2 and jams it foul. And you got to make her work, right? Is that a key if you're a hitter? You just want to make her work and try to get that pitch to go up in the zone, because she likes to sometimes throw those pitches outside the strike zone and get you to chase.
That's true, and that's part of her strategy, right? If she's not getting those swing and miss pitches, she has to bring it down to the strike zone. She's not comfortable there. So making sure that you, as a hitter, when you're facing Emily Watson, that you're either making her throw a lot of pitches or capitalizing early in your at-bat, just the same way that we find we can talk about this a little bit next week.
We'll pick that up, as that was a strikeout to end the inning. 3 strikeouts for Watson through 2 innings. And at the end of 2, it's Tulsa 1, Wichita State nothing on the American Digital Network.
Tulsa, the center fielder, number 1, Michaela Witten.
Welcome back here. We hit at the top of the third inning, a 1-1 count. Is Tori Stafford leading it off for Tulsa against Bailey Lang. It'll be Stafford, Witten, and Hollingsworth, 8-9-1. And that pitch is dropped into center, but making the catch is the center fielder for the first out of the inning, as that ball kind of hung there for Weber to make the catch. So one gone here in the third inning. That'll bring up now the number 9. It's actually the top of the order now. Hollingsworth will come to the plate, as Witten was the one that made the out. But Hollingsworth, with the solo homer in her first at-bat back in the first inning, her third home run of the year, as she takes ball 1. She's now 7 for 12 on the season against Wichita State pitching. So I think she likes seeing Wichita State pitching.
Well, and it makes a big difference, too, that, again, she's seen, it's not a surprise what she's going to be thrown and what she can do as a player. So, there again, that level of gamesmanship from both sides here, being familiar with the strengths and weaknesses of each player in the lineup, you just have to tip your hat to Hollingsworth if you're Lang. She chose a good pitch. She drove it out of the park.
She hits a grounder to short. The throw to first is in time for the out as Dureco makes a nice throw, 6-3 on the ground out, and they do retire Hollingsworth for the second out here in the third inning.
No, and there you go, right? So Hollingsworth is able to get her the first time, but Lang's able to do what she does best and use her defense to work behind her.
So now Morgan Neal to the plate, hitting .341 coming into this game. Takes low for a ball, 1-0 the count. Of course, this is the first of 4 games. The winner of this game will take on the winner of our next game. The number 2 seed, the Houston Cougars, will take on the East Carolina Pirates. As Neal hits it to right, foul, and the count is 1-1.
And again, we're seeing the Golden Hurricane take their hacks on those inside pitches. I have not seen an inside pitch go by yet that Tulsa has not swung at. Now we saw just now Hollingsworth took a hack at an outside pitch, and look what happened. There it was. There's the first one.
They heard you.
They heard me.
Pitch inside, and the count is 2-1. But that is, sometimes you look for certain pitches, right? It's as simple as, hey, look for a pitch at a certain location. That's it. Sometimes teams tend to overcomplicate things. You just keep it simple.
Well, and that's the idea, right, is that if your coach gives you a game plan, all of a sudden you're like, great. All I'm looking for is that pitch, and it takes the guesswork out of it.
2-2 the count. No one on, 2 outs here in the third. As Lang delivers, that's a pitch up high, and it's fouled back. And Neal makes her work another pitch.
And we saw that pitch fouled back-to-back, just like you said, Eric. And that's an indicator for me as a former pitcher and as a coach that Neal is right on it. Right, so she fouls the ball straight back, and so her timing was perfect on that pitch. Didn't work out for her this at bat.
No, she got jammed on that one as Riley Buck touched the bag at first to end the inning. A 1-2-3 inning for Tulsa. We're through 2.5. Tulsa still leads 1-0. Welcome back. Bottom of the third inning, the Tulsa and Wichita State. You see Christy Bredbender, the head coach of the Shockers, in her 7th season. What a job she has done in turning this Wichita State program into a powerhouse. As you look at some of the accomplishments, taking this program here in their 7th season from 15 wins to 40 wins in their first 3 seasons. And here they are in the American Conference. They were literally a win away, Sydney, from winning the conference championship. Came down to the very last day on this field against USF. They lost again, but not many people would have thought Wichita State would be contending for the title this season. But Coach Bredbender was confident, and boy, what a job she's done.
And I think it makes a big difference, too, that, Bredbender added Coach Economon to the squad this year for the coaching staff, and they actually played together. So they've been best friends since college. And that chemistry in a coaching staff makes a big difference in terms of their energy, in terms of the way that they talk to each other, the example they set for the way that the girls handle each other as well.
There's a pop-up in foul territory, and the catch is made. A nice defensive play by Tori Stafford, the first baseman, over the shoulder catch for the first out of the inning.
And that's a difference-making play, right? That's the type of play that you call a game-changing play, because if she doesn't catch that ball, she gives the batter another opportunity to take their hacks, and that might tie it up, start a rally. There's a number of things that can result from that, and it's a great play by Stafford there, who's going to be able to cut that momentum in half.
So Perrigan fouls out on that, and now Paige Llewellyn steps into the plate. The senior hitting .321 with 6 homers and 28 RBIs on the season. But that last play, that defensive play, shows again how good Tulsa is defensively. Ranked 34th in the country in fielding percentage. They've only made 39 errors all year, Tulsa.
And it makes a huge difference having that sort of defensive consistency, right? And, and that's really where Tulsa, again, we talked about it earlier, Tulsa has really shown how much of a difference it makes to have that clean defense and to have the pitching to make the difference. Now, also, there is a factor that you have to factor in here. Watson has a lot of strikeouts, so her defense actually has less opportunities to contribute to their offensive or their defensive percentages. And so it goes to show you that they're locked in pitch to pitch. And so you have to tip your hat to this coaching staff and on their recruiting of really great defensive players.
It's kind of a catch-22 in that situation. You have a strikeout pitcher, so you don't have to make as many plays. But as you said, part of the issue with that from a defensive standpoint is you have to stay focused because a ball could come to you. Sometimes that's at a disadvantage, you not knowing, hey, well, she's just going to get the strikeout. You got to stay focused. Sometimes you're better off getting more reps, but Tulsa has not been affected by that.
That's true, and I think that it makes a big difference that Emily Watson doesn't throw very many pitches usually. And so the fact that she doesn't throw very many pitches makes it easy for her defense to stay locked in.
The count has worked full here. 3-2 is Paige Llewellyn has made Watson work here, trying to get something going here for this Shockers offense. You're in the bottom of the third, trailing 1-0 on a solo homer by Julia Hollingsworth in the top of the first. Watson on to 3-2. Upstairs, ball 4 and a walk to Llewellyn here with 1 out in the third inning. Good at bat there to get herself on base.
And Llewellyn is known for the draw, right? So she's climbed through the Shocker record books in walks. She has 103. She had 103 prior to that one. That one that she just had is now her 104th walk. So she's actually tied for first in the Shocker record books for number of walks.
First pitch, a strike to number 9 hitter, Mariana Gemelli. Steps in here. And now we'll see what they do here with Llewellyn. Not much of a threat to run. Hasn't had a stolen base this season. She's 0 for 1 this season, as a matter of fact. There's the 0-1 by Watson. It's a swing and a miss. But this is a big sequence here, Cindy, because on deck, you've got the American Conference Player of the Year, Mackenzie Wright. So this is important for Watson here against the number 9 hitter. This is going to be a very, very tricky situation.
And that's true, and it's strategic to have Llewellyn down at more of the bottom of the lineup. It's not only the fact that she is able to draw walks, and you want to keep a player like that in the lineup, and she's also contributed offensively all year long, but she hasn't had she heated up at the beginning of the season and then has not had that same success now here going into postseason. So this is actually this is working in their favor that they were able to move it down so that you can load the bases for one of your best hitters.
The 1-2, the swing and a miss. The strikeout as Watson goes upstairs and gets the strikeout. As she went rise there, Sydney, to get the strikeout. That's 4 now for Watson in the game.
And she goes way out of the zone for this one. Throws it right at the letters, and then it cuts up late. Not much you can do on that pitch. You just got to tip your hat and say, all right, Watson, you win this one.
And now Mackenzie Wright, the American Conference Player of the Year, named yesterday, will step in. First pitch of ball. In fact, Wright was the first Wichita State athlete to win major conference award here since joining the American Conference this year. Think about that with the success they've had, obviously, in volleyball and in men's basketball. But Mackenzie Wright adding her name to the record books.
Well, and she was also one of the first shockers, or she made a big difference in the drought that there was of players being named to all conference honors all 4 years. And so she actually is the first shocker since 2008 to get that recognition.
That's right. It was all conference, obviously, in the Missouri Valley previous to this year, and has picked up right here at a high level. And has worked the count to 2-1 against Watson. And, of course, these two so familiar with each other. Again, even though these two teams are in the first year in the conference together, they've played each other in the non-conference every year. And Wright and Watson have seen each other throughout. There's a strike. I know you were talking to some of the people at the Wichita State prior to the game, and they were like, yeah, we've seen Watson a lot, too much to be. So it's a lot of familiarity between these two sides, maybe even more than they would have with any other conference team. Even though Tulsa's been in the league now for a few years, Wichita State might know them better than even anybody else in the league, as weird as that sounds. 2-2, and Wright fouls it off because of how often they've played and busting, home and homes or doubleheaders.
Well, I would say that of the teams that know each other really well, I think you can say if you are from Memphis, Houston, Tulsa, and UCF, you're pretty familiar with the brand of softball that's going to be coming out of any of those programs and what their tendencies are.
The 2-2 pitch. Hit up the middle and through. Base hit. A 2-out single for Mackenzie Wright. First hit of the ball game for the Shockers. Finally belongs to the Player of the Year, Wright. And the Shockers, with a bit of a rally here in the third inning, now have runners at first and second.
And she waits patiently for that pitch. Was surprised that she didn't swing it the first time that it came down the pipe, but she was able to capitalize there and drive it up the middle. It was actually put more on the outside corner. Again, she rarely misses a mistake. That ball got a little bit too much of the way.
Asia Weber now will step in. Left-handed hitter will hit here with 2 on, 2 outs here in the third inning. So the first 2 base runners of the ball game for Wichita State have come here in this inning via the walk and now the single by Wright. And a swing and a miss by Weber, and Watson gets ahead 0-1.
What's really cool about this Wichita State team is that collectively, they're a bunch of free swingers, right? They want to hit home runs. They want to put the ball and hit it as hard and as far as they can. And we've seen that through a number of offensive categories, namely the number of home runs that they've been able to hit thus far this season. And I think that is, we saw the big swing we got from Weber just now. But what I think is really cool is that you're not often going to get a team like this that when they are swinging, even if they swing and miss or they hit it, it's more often than not going to go in their favor.
Count is 1-2 to Weber. Here in the bottom of the third. 2 on, 2 outs. Llewellyn at second base, Wright at first. But Watson trying to get out of this inning here. Ahead 1-2 on Weber. And she delivers and gets the strikeout to end the inning. As Emily Watson, overpowering the Shocker hitters there, works around the walk and the hit in the inning. No runs, a hit, no errors. And at the end of 3 here in Tampa, still 1-0 Tulsa on the American Digital Network.
2 hits, no errors, 1 left on base. And for Wichita State, no runs, 1 hit, no errors, 2 left on base. Shelby Estacado.
Eric Lopez here. Shelby Estacado takes strike one. It'll be Estacado to lead it off, followed by Minham and Briers, 3, 4, 5 hitters for the Golden Hurricane. Here in the top of the fourth inning, Tulsa with 1 run, 2 hits, no errors. Wichita State, no runs, a hit and an error. There's a ground ball to short. Directo throw to first. In time to retire Estacado for the first out of the inning. 6-3 ground out as Estacado is retired. And that'll bring up Minham to the plate, and Eric Lopez here alongside Sidney Gerbrack. And, you know, Bailey Lang gave up that solo home run to Hollingsworth, the first batter of the game right off the bat. Sometimes pitchers can be rattled by that, but it seems like Lang has settled in since then with that foul pitch and 0-1 the count.
She has settled in nicely, and what's nice is that she, you know, giving up that run in the first inning, it's not the be-all, end-all, and especially since you have a lot of ball game left, right? We're in the top of the fourth inning here. And you know, I think that the fact that she's able to settle in is a tribute to her composure and the fact that she trusts her team offensively to get the job done. And why shouldn't she? Her team leads in multiple offensive categories in the conference.
And that's the luxury as a pitcher, knowing you've got some offense coming, and that's a grounder to short. And a throw to first in time, and right now, Lori Directo, the shortstop, has been busy, and that's a good sign. Bailey Lang getting some ground ball outs there and gets 2 quick outs.
And you're seeing Tulsa be more aggressive at the beginning of their at-bats, which more often than not goes in your favor as long as you're choosing good pitches and you're having good timing. We've seen 2 back-to-back Tulsa offensive players swing in an outside pitch and swing on the outside of the outside pitch and making it really easy for Wichita State to field those defensively.
Sarah Briers at the plate, the freshman playing at the DP spot today. Swings and hits a fly ball to right. Playable as Nickerson's there, makes the catch in a quick 1-2-3 inning for Bailey Lang and the Shockers. No runs, no hits, no errors, and no one left on. Through 3.5, still 1-0 Tulsa.
7,000 student athletes rising to become champions in 21 different sports at 13 esteemed institutions across 11 states. 360,000 students and 2.6 million alumni rise up in celebration of a Power 6 conference known as the American.
Welcome into the ADN studio. Hope your week is off to a great start. Thanks for tuning in to an all-new episode of The Rise.
And Mike Hughes, the kicker to beat. Do you believe it? Kareem Bruton Jr. for the win. Yes! The American Conference Championship. Bernie scores.
The next biggest game is our biggest game, and we've been doing that all year.
A game like this, you got to want to win the game. We get to the point to where, okay, we're all scratching the itch, waiting for college football to start.
How impressive is it that both of these programs have been here the last 4 years?
This ball is launched out and beyond left field. Bohm gets around on this one, up the line, that's fair.
I couldn't be prouder. I mean, this conference has just performed beyond anyone's expectations.
There you see Emily Watson, last year's American Softball Pitcher of the Year, the All-American Tournament MVP, getting set to start the bottom of the fourth, has a 1-0 lead to work with. And Sydney, your thoughts on Watson here through the first 3 innings?
She's had a solid performance so far. We've seen that when Wichita State is patient and they're fouling pitches off, that's when she gets her most uncomfortable, right? So she needs to make sure that she's throwing the least amount of pitches because that's really where her wheelhouse is. But she's done a really good job of working the vertical ladder with her rise ball, very strategically using her changeup. We haven't seen her use it a whole lot so far. What she likes to do is on a team that's not as familiar with her and doesn't make adjustments as quickly as a team like Wichita State would, she would actually wait until maybe the 4th or 5th inning to introduce that pitch, almost as if she's introducing something brand new that this team hasn't seen before. But since this team is so familiar, we've seen she's been very choosy on where she's throwing it with specific batters. So again, the gamesmanship, the pitch calling on the Tulsa side has been very strategic because they're really familiar with this Wichita State lineup.
Laurie Dureco, the junior, down in the count 1-2. And swings it top, hits it foul down to third base. Dureco, Lang, and Buck are the scheduled hitters for the Shockers, the heart of the order, 3, 4, 5. Here against Emily Watson, here in the bottom of the fourth inning. This is the first of 4 games today. Houston versus East Carolina will follow this game. And the winner of that game will play the winner of this game. And then at 4 o'clock, UCF Knights, the 4 seed, taking on the Memphis Tigers as Watson gets the strikeout for the first out here in the fourth inning. Again, going upstairs to get the strikeout. That's been an effective pitch.
Yeah, she's done really well using that as that strike 3 pitch. Again, that swing and miss is so important for Watson to be successful. And when teams are laying off that pitch, it makes her job exponentially more difficult. But she is wheeling and dealing today, using a great mix and working the strike zone really well thus far.
Bailey Lang pulls a base hit into right field. A 1-out single for Lang. It's the second hit of the ball game for the Shockers. Comes here in the bottom of the fourth.
That's a good choice there from Bailey Lang. We saw that she did not have as much success with an outside pitch in a previous inside pitch in a previous at bat, but she takes that ball and just drives it through the 3-4 hole, and she's able to be successful here after seeing Watson for the second time. Ideally, you should be getting more successful as the game goes on, especially if you haven't had the result you want in your first couple at bats.
Riley Buck at the plate, swings and misses, and the count is 0-1. This is where the adjustments start happening, right, on both sides, from a hitter standpoint, and then Watson's got to also maybe adjust a little bit on certain things depending what the hitters do.
And especially with Wichita State, if I'm a coach or even if I'm a teammate or holding anybody in the lineup accountable, at what point do you stop swinging at the rise ball? Just let it go, because if you focus on swinging at something that is down in the zone, granted, easier said than done, but focusing on earlier in the count and swinging on something that's down in the zone that's more often in your wheelhouse, choose curve, choose drop. Make sure that you're getting your barrel there and that you're adjusting, and not, especially for the drop, you don't need to be swinging over the drop. Get your barrel down and make sure that you're squaring it up the way that you know how.
The 0-2 count on Buck. Swings away, it hits a pop-up to left field. Haley Minen is under it and makes the catch, and Buck is retired. She's 0 for 2 today. As she flies out for the second out of the inning, and now they'll bring up Bailey Nickerson to the plate.
So for those of you at home, you don't know that Eric Lopez and I have been talking softball for the past couple days about all of these teams, and one of the things he told me this morning was that the ball sometimes off the bat, the sound is deceiving in this stadium. Yep. I actually thought that ball might have been out.
I'm glad I told you that. Yeah, no, this park plays big. It's 230 to center, 210 to left center and right center, and it doesn't carry as much, especially with a day like today, as that pitch is fouled off by Nickerson. There's not much of a win, especially to left and center. So a bat will sound good. And how big of an adjustment is that for a team like Wichita State? They've hit a ton of home runs, especially at home. Now, they just played on this field this weekend, and even talking to some of the Wichita State players, they hit some balls they thought, oh, they hit it good, and it's a fly out. That's got to be psychologically a factor. Runner goes. The throw to second is in time. She's out. The defensive player of the year does it again. Riley Spell throws out another base runner to end the inning. What a throw here by Spell. Perfect throw to get the out to end the inning. We head to the top of the fifth with a score. Tulsa 1 and Wichita State nothing. You're watching the America Digital Network's coverage.
7,000 student athletes rising to become champions in 21 different sports at 13 esteemed institutions across 11 states. 360,000 students and 2.6 million alumni rise up in celebration of a Power 6 conference known as the American.
Welcome into the ADN studio. Hope your week is off to a great start. Thanks for tuning in to an all-new episode of The Rise.
And Mike Hughes, the kicker to beat. Do you believe it? Kareem Bruton Jr. for the win. Yes! The American Conference champion, 30 scores.
Next game, biggest game, we've been doing that all year.
Game like this, you got to win the game. We get to the point to where, okay, we're all scratching the itch, waiting for college football.
How impressive is it that both of these programs have been here the last 4 years?
Ball is launched out and beyond left field. Ball gets around on this one, up the line.
I couldn't be prouder. I mean, this conference has just performed beyond anyone's expectations.
And the first pitch is a strike to Shannon Hughes here in the top of the fifth, with Tulsa still leading 1-0 here at the University of South Florida campus at the U.S. Softball Field. Derek Lopez here alongside Cindy Gerbrack as Hughes takes a ball. 1-1 the count. And we talked about in the last inning there, Cindy, about the dimensions of this field. It's totally different than what Wichita State has been accustomed to. Now, they just played here this past weekend, but you even brought it up. I mean, they hit some balls they thought were really well hit. They were allowed outs because it's 230 to center. You've got even 190 to left field and right field, but it's a big, big fence, so you got to hit it on top.
And what makes a big difference, too, is that, I mean, if you're pulling the ball, or even if you're sending it as a right-handed hitter, if you're sending it off of the outside corner of the plate, I mean, the ball has to be hit high and out. It's not enough to have a line drive. Now, what we're seeing with what Wichita State is going to have to do, they're going to have to adjust to the dimensions of the park, especially since we know the gaps and true center field is so deep. At USF, when they played this past weekend, they only hit 2 home runs. In the other 18 games combined, they hit 28. Makes a huge difference for a team that really concentrates their run power with runners in scoring position and the firepower of doubles and home runs for them to know, hey, like, we're going to have to be putting even more firepower and be swinging maybe even more freely than we do normally to make sure that that ball goes out.
Hughes grounded out to Mackenzie Wright for the first out of the inning. Spell, who had a single in her first at-bat, is at the plate right now, and the count is 1-1. Can that play with you mentally as a hitter? You're so used to swinging at one approach. You mentioned home runs, and all of a sudden it's not going your way. You mentioned this is a team, Wichita State, that ranks 12th in the country in home runs per average. They average 1.1 home runs per game. That's 12th best in the nation. And this is not necessarily a field that really fits. You could hit a ball really good to center field, and it's just an out because it's 230 to center. The wind not big of a factor as that pitch is low, 2-2. And as comparison at Wichita, where the wind tends to blow out a lot.
I mean, I think that you have to shift the perspective in your favor. Okay, so you might not be hitting a whole lot of home runs, but you are hitting a lot of deep doubles, which means that if you have a speedy runner on first, more often than not, you're going to be able to hit in a bases-loaded situation. If you drive one out to right center, more often than not, you can get a 3-run RBI opportunity there. So making sure that this Wichita State program is focusing on the things that they can control. Sure, if you're not going to be hitting it out, just make sure that you're hitting it in the gap and giving yourself the biggest opportunity to run around and take as many lengths of 60 feet as you can.
Riley Spell draws a 1-out walk, so she gets on for the second time today. And so Tulsa has a runner on at first with Tori Stafford at the plate. We've spent a lot of time on the Wichita offense, so let's talk about the Tulsa offense. They really haven't gotten much done since the Hollingsworth home run, and you can't be, obviously, a 1-run lead against Wichita State is nothing to be safe for. So what can Tulsa do here to maybe get back to a rhythm offensively here, because Lang has kind of shut them down since that home run?
Well, I think there needs to be a commitment to the game plan, or even recommitting to the game plan, right? They were doing really well when they were choosing inside pitches, regardless of whether they were on the right or left side of the plate as a hitter. And so I think that making sure that they are choosing the horizontal pitches.
There's a catch that's made by the second baseman there, Jamelli, over the shoulder catch for the second out of the inning. Runner stays at first, so Stafford is retired for the second out of the inning.
And to continue, too, I mean, Lang is going to rely on balls just like that, right? She's going to rely on her defense. But, again, one of the things I noted, comparably to Tulsa, Wichita State has made a lot of errors in the past 10 games. 11 errors out of the past 10 games. So if Tulsa really wants to pack a punch, put the ball on the ground. Force them to make the play. Force them to show you that they're going to be able to, and hit the ball hard on the ground too. Force them to be able to make the play and get the out every time.
Put pressure on the defense. Make them make plays.
Absolutely.
Witten at the plate, the number 9 hitter, the sophomore. The center fielder. 0 for 1 today. We're the runner at first in spell. And 2 outs here in the top of the 5th. A 1-0 lead for Tulsa, in case you're just joining us. Eric Lopez here alongside Cindy Gerbrack. This is the first of 4 games today on the American Digital Network. Quarterfinal day of the American Softball Championships. Houston will take on East Carolina following this game. Later today at 4 o'clock, UCF will take on Memphis in the 4-5 game. As that ball gets passed into the backstop, and that will allow Spell to get into scoring position. As Paragon and Lang not on the same page on that pitch, and it allows Spell to get to second base and now in scoring position, which now a base hit could, in theory, drive her in.
Well, and you're finally getting the production or things falling in your favor if you're Tulsa here, right? So it's going to be important for them to execute with runners in scoring position, and that means often not hitting into double play, making sure that you're getting and you're taking great pitches, you're taking the walk if you can grab it, and this is exactly what you want to be doing. Riley Spell did her job. We see Witten does hers, and now you have it's a 2-out opportunity for a rally here, and I don't want anybody else coming up if I'm Tulsa other than Hollingsworth.
And that's who's coming up right now, and I think that's why you're seeing this meeting. You got to make sure you're on the same page, because Hollingsworth has had success against Wichita pitching this season. She's 7 for 13 right now this season against Wichita State pitching, including that solo home run in the first inning, which right now is the difference in the game. And now she will come up with 2 on, 2 outs here in the 5th inning. And I mentioned the schedule, UCF Memphis at 4 o'clock. Their last game will be the number 1 seed, the regular season champions, the USF Bulls. The host team will take on the 8 seed UConn. So lots of action here on the American Digital Network. It's going to be a fun day. Make sure you keep it here all day long to cover the very best here, the 4th best conference in college softball here today. And all tomorrow, of course, the 2 semifinal games. Hollingsworth takes a ball, 1-0 the count. 1-0 the count. Lang looks now at the Wichita State dugout right by third base to see for the sign here. This is a very pivotal moment in this game. The way Watson's pitching, if you're Wichita State, you don't want to really fall behind. Even as good as your offense is, you don't want to give up a couple more runs, because that's going to be tough to scratch out runs against Watson.
And again, I mean, we're in the top of the 5th inning, right? Still a lot of ball game left. It's not over until it's over. And one of the things about softball, it is a fickle game, right? At any given moment, the momentum can change, and Wichita can go off on an offensive tear.
And Hollingsworth gets a base hit in the right center. That's going to go all the way to the fence. Spell's going to come in to score. They're going to send in the second runner. She will score. It's a 2 RBI triple by Julia Hollingsworth. And the 2-time defending conference champions extend their lead to 3-0. Julia Hollingsworth does it again. 2 hits today, 3 ribbies, and put it right into the gap, and that was trouble for the Shockers.
And we just talked about this being strategy for the Shockers, and Tulsa executes it perfectly. Hits behind her runners, hits it into the gap. Wichita State doesn't focus on keeping the ball in front. Hollingsworth gets a 2-run, 2 RBI triple. Not much more you can ask for from the senior. Outstanding. That's great softball.
Morgan Neal at the plate, runner at third with 2 outs. This is a veteran Tulsa team. The seniors have played in all 3 conference championship games all 3 years. They've only lost 1 conference tournament game since joining the American Conference. That was 100 miles away. If you take the I-4 east here in Central Florida, they lost it in the championship game to UCF on a Samantha McCloskey home run back in 2015 as Neal flies out to right to end the inning. But they wanted to continue their defense of their title. Hollingsworth gives the Golden Hurricane a 3-0 lead through 4 1/2.
Student athlete, become champions in 20 wins and team across 11 states. 300
episode of The Rise.
A game like this, you got to want to win the game. We get to the point to where, okay, we're all scratching the itch, waiting for college football to start.
How impressive is it that both of these programs have been here the last 4 years?
This ball is launched and beyond left field. Bohm gets around on this one, up the line, that's fair.
I couldn't be prouder. I mean, this conference has just performed beyond anyone's expectations.
Welcome back here, bottom of the fifth here, the American Softball Championships, day one. It's Tulsa, the two-time defending champs, with a 3-0 lead thanks to Julia Hollingsworth, who hit a solo home run in the first and then a 2 RBI triple here in the top of the fifth, has extended this Golden Hurricane lead to 3-0. What a game for Hollingsworth. We talked about her, the keys to the game, Sydney. We talked about she goes this offense, and she's carried this offense today.
Well, and it's made a big difference, too, that she makes adjustments not only within her at-bats, but from at-bat to at-bat. She knew what she was looking for in coming into this third at-bat. She executes the game plan flawlessly, and there's not much more you can ask for.
Bailey Nickerson takes a strike. That triple, by the way, for Hollingsworth was her 6th triple. It ties the school record for most triples in a single season with 6. Caitlin Everett in 2012 had 6 triples for Tulsa, so she has tied that mark. What a landmark triple. And here's a grounder to second, knocked down, throw to first, is wide. An error thrown, and Nickerson will take second base. An uncharacteristic defensive mistake for Tulsa as Morgan Neal just threw that ball wide, and the Shockers get a base runner on to start here in the fifth.
Ooh. Not something we see from Neal very often. She's gotten every start thus far over at second base. Just that bobble shakes her a little bit. Let's take a look at it again. It's a well-hit ball, but instead of just setting her feet and trusting her timing, her throw gets away from her. Uncharacteristic of anyone in the Tulsa defense be making it an error, but
it's only their 40th error as a team this year, and that's a base hit into center field. They're going to hold the runner at third, and the Shockers starting off here on a good note with an error and now a single. Isn't it amazing? All it takes sometimes is a play there, a miscue by somebody else to jumpstart you.
Well, and let's talk first about this. Again, perfect piece of hitting. And Riley Spell making sure she keeps that ball in front. So many great things in play here. We talked how important it was about game-changing plays, right? And about how important it was for Tori Stafford to go over and catch that foul ball. We now see the snowball effect when plays aren't made when they should be. Something that's, I mean, and that ball to Morgan Neal wasn't necessarily a ground ball, or a routine ground ball, rather. It was hit really hard. But the fact that Neal was not able to make the play gives the Shockers a little bit of that momentum. And this is a team that you cannot give momentum to offensively if you are Tulsa. This is the time when they have now mastered their recipe for success and energy, momentum. That is something that they feed off offensively. And with a team like this of free swingers, they're going to start to swing bigger and bigger the more confident they get.
That's only the 7th error of the year, by the way, for Morgan Neal. And then, of course, Perrigan follows it up with a single. And so you got Nickerson at third, and you got Perrigan at first. First and third, nobody out. The meetings are over. And Llewellyn at the plate. She drew a walk in her first at-bat. So now Emily Watson working out of a jam here. First and third, nobody out here in the bottom of the fifth. And the Shockers bringing the tying run to the plate in Llewellyn.
Well, what I love about Perrigan is that she didn't try to overswing, right? So she allowed Watson to supply the power. She got her barrel there. She had great bat speed, but she didn't do anything extra. And I think that's one of the things that we've seen from Wichita State so far, is that it looks like they're trying to do more with their swing than trusting their timing and trusting that they're choosing the right pitch and allowing Watson to supply the power.
The 1-0. That's upstairs, and Watson's fallen behind here, 2-0 to Llewellyn. an error and a single in the inning, and the Shockers trying to respond, trailing 3-0 here in the bottom of the 5th. And when you've had the success that you've had on offense like this year, like Wichita State has, you never lose confidence. Even when things aren't going your way, there's a strike, 2-1. You know that you're capable of making up 3 runs really quickly. And you could sense that right now in this dugout. There's no concern in this Wichita State dugout. They're still the same confident team they were a few innings ago.
Well, and what's great is that you're seeing some of the names that...
There's a high chopper. It's going to be a tough play. To throw to first is the safest to call, as Nickerson will come in to score. Llewellyn beats it out. The Shockers get on the board, and it's 3-1.
I mean, what more can you do if you're Shelby Estacado? I mean, she runs clear across the field, grabs that, and doesn't think that she has the time to rear back and fire to throw that ball on the run, so she just tries to flip it. I mean, I don't even know what she could have done better in that situation. She does everything she can to get that ball over there, and it just happens to go in Llewellyn's favor.
You sometimes just tip your cap. There's nothing you can do about it.
I mean, and you have to tip your cap to Estacado as well. I mean,
yeah.
She made every single effort she could to make that happen, and it just didn't go her way.
And the Shockers going to the bench here. They're going to go to the pinch runner. Cassidy Kelsheimer is at second base. As the Shockers here trying to get some base running on. They've got a couple pinch runners, first and second. With Mariana Gemelli at the plate to hit here. Shockers with first and second. Still nobody out in the inning.
The second baseman, number 27, Mariana Gemelli.
So Kelsheimer, the pinch runner, actually earned a starting spot in the outfield, on opening weekend, but she hasn't been able to fire offensively much this year, so she hasn't gotten the same looks. She's listed as a utility player, so she can play everywhere, but has not been able to produce offensively. And we know that if you are hitting, if you hit, you will play. They will find a spot for you out there on the field.
They always do. Morgan Palmer, by the way, is the pinch runner at first base. Gemelli's at the plate. She tried to bunt there and fouled it off. And I think the strategy here, if you're Coach Brett Benner, is you want these 2 runners to get in scoring position for your best player, Wright, who's on deck, to come to the plate. As Gemelli pulls back and takes a ball. So really, this is Gemelli's job, is trying to get this ball down and to get these 2 runners into scoring position on the sacrifice. These are the plays that don't show up on the box score that end up, deciding games.
And one of the things we talked about earlier this broadcast, Eric, how important it is to put the ball on the ground, make the team make a play. And even though Tulsa has one of the best records and has been error-free for the majority of the season, I mean, even if you put the ball on the ground and you hit it well, it's not necessarily a guarantee even if you hit it right at a defending player. So I think Wichita State is slowly becoming present to that idea and all of a sudden creating that momentum for themselves by finding what's working for them. And what's working often is going to be putting the ball on the ground.
Gemelli fouls it back, and with 2 strikes, the bunt play now looks like it will be out of the equation in this situation. And now Watson's just trying to get it out right now. Was kind of really moving along through that first 4 innings. But an error and a couple of hits in this inning. And the Shockers all of a sudden with a little momentum. Trailing 3-1, but threatening. The 1-2 pitch. Jammed her, but fouled it back. Good at bat here is Gemelli making Watson work, fouling off some pitches.
So she's fouling off and right on time on that inside pitch that she's getting from Watson. Wouldn't be surprised if Watson goes hard and up and out of the zone, or we see something on the outside corner off speed.
1-2. There it is, a strike 3 as Watson gets the strikeout for the first out here in the 5th inning.
And we saw it. There it is. She's throwing that and now moving away from the rise ball. When she sees the timing changes, she's working that beautiful off-speed changeup.
And now Mackenzie Wright will come to the plate, but not before Coach John Barfelt will have a meeting with his group here. And what do you think the conversations here? Is this about more about making sure everybody knows the situation defensively here? Is it? Because usually it seems to me like he's talking to Watson, but I think he wants to make sure that everybody's on the same page.
You know, any coach-to-player confab is going to be a combination of things. It can be, hey, I'm coming out here to give us an opportunity to breathe, relax, remind you that you all know exactly what you're doing and you'll figure it out. And there's also, if he needs to make them aware of any sort of play that he thinks Wichita State might try to pull here. Again, not going to be a surprise that one of the best players in the conference is coming up right now, so that's probably had something to do with that. They might be walking her. There could be a number of things at play here. So, but any combination of strategy and just reminding your team to take a breath are all within that conversation.
And the first pitch to Watson to right is high, ball one. What a matchup here. You've got the new player of the year in the conference in Mackenzie Wright going up against Emily Watson, who was the pitcher of the year last year and an All-American, the tournament MVP last year. Mano a mano here in the bottom of the fifth. First and second when one out. And the 1-0, and Wright swings and pops it up, foul territory. They give it a look, but it's right on top of us here in the stands. 1-1 the count. A lot of people were looking forward to this matchup when the bracket came out with the history. This is the 50th all-time meeting between these two programs. Wichita State leads the all-time series 26-23. It tells you how competitive it is, and we're seeing it really unfold here on the field. I don't think anybody is surprised by how right now where we're at in this game as the 1-1. And that pitch just missed low there, 2-1.
And I love the gamesmanship of that pitch being called there, right? So we see her swing hard on an outside pitch, foul it off, and just miss it. Looked like that we could have gotten a really great. You might have been able to get a really good swing and miss or a miss hit off of a player that is not as disciplined as Wright. But again, she waits for something harder. She knows what she's looking for. She fouls it straight back now, so we know her timing is getting better pitch to pitch. That's part of that's going to be a difference maker for a really great hitter like Wright against a really great pitcher like Watson. When you have their talent and their prowess go head-to-head here, you're watching them both make adjustments pitch to pitch, and it's great to watch.
And Watson makes the adjustment and goes upstairs to get Wright for the strikeout. 2 outs here in the fifth, a big strikeout for Watson. And that going upstairs on the riser has been effective today.
It's been really effective. Watson has done a good job of leveraging that rise ball for that swing and miss strike, for that swing and miss strike 3 rather, all day long. And we've mentioned it before, but if she's able to get Mackenzie Wright out on that pitch, I mean, you know that it's working and that it's on, and it's been on all day today.
So now it's up to Asia Weber, who swung there, and it's 0-1 the count. Weber has struck out twice today. She's 0 for 2, and she's hitting with first and second and 2 outs. That's Watson, the senior, the All-American. On the 0-1 pitch, swing and a miss. And now Watson's ahead, 0-2.
So Asia Weber has chosen that pitch and has swung and missed at it every single at-bat that she's had so far this game. The biggest difference that I'm seeing is that she's swinging so big that she's taking her front shoulder out of her swing. So instead of driving everything, same thing.
Right
instead
there.
of driving everything she's got towards where that ball is going rather than where it's thrown, she takes all of her power away.
Watson's got the power. She gets 9 strikeouts and preserves a 3-1 lead through 5 on the digital network.
7,000 student athletes rising to become champions in 21 different sports at 13 esteemed institutions across 11 states. 360,000 students and 2.6 million alumni rise up in celebration of a Power 6 conference known as the American.
Welcome in to the ADN studio. Hope your week is off to a great start. Thanks for tuning in to an all-new episode of The Rise.
And Mike Hughes, the kicker to beat. Do you Bruton Jr. for the win. Yes! The American Conference Championship. Bernie scores!
The next biggest game is our biggest game, and we've been doing that all year.
A game like this, you got to want to win the game. We get to the point to where, okay, we're all scratching the itch, waiting for college football to start.
How impressive is it that both of these programs have been here the last 4 years?
This ball is launched out and beyond left field. Bohm gets around on this one, up the line, that's fair.
I couldn't be prouder. I mean, this conference has just performed beyond anyone's expectations.
There you see John Barfield briefly there as Shelby Estacado is at the play. There's John Barfield in his 13th season. Has won at least 30 games or more every season while he's been at Tulsa. The 1-0 to Estacado is low for a ball. 2-0 the count. What a job Barfield has done. You've played against his team, Sydney. As good as it gets. To put it in perspective, prior to Barfield's arrival, as Estacado fouls it off, Tulsa only has had 4 winning seasons of 30 wins prior to Barfield's arrival. Never won a conference championship or an NCAA tournament appearance. Since Barfield's arrival, they have had winning seasons every year. They've won 30 games or more, and of course, they've won the regular season title since joining the American Conference last season, and of course, the last 2 conference tournament titles. Not to, of course, as well as numerous conference championships over in Conference USA. They have become one of the top programs in college softball under Coach Barfield's a big part of that.
And Barfeld is a great coach, and his teams are always coached well. I mean, I can't ever remember a time having played against and watched Tulsa play for a couple years now. That the team is always comfortable. They know their brand of softball. They're committed, and he has a great presence out there on the field, and then you get a chance to have him in conversation, and he engrosses you in strategy and whatever it is that.
Grounded at second, the throw is first, is not in time, and Estacado beats it out. That ball was deflected off Bailey Lang's glove, and it went to second, and then Jameli, by the time she threw to first, couldn't get her out, and so the Golden Hurricane get the leadoff runner on here in the 6th.
Good choice there by Estacado, but she sells that. She sells it. The second she crosses the plate, her hands are out, showing the umpire that she's safe. So even that gesture, again, I love that. I love that she's coming into this game or going into that at bat, doing everything she can to make sure that she's getting the call to go in her favor.
Spoken like a true hitter right there that beat out many runs. Sydney Gerback, of course, played at Houston there, but Tulsa getting the runner on here with Haley Meinum at the plate. And this is big here. We're in the top of the 6th. Tulsa this year is 18-1 when leading after 6 innings. The ground ball to short. A throw to first is in time. Nice play by Dureco to get the out at first. But on the Meinum ground out, that does allow Estacado to advance to second on the play. So there is now 1 out.
And in another, if there's a number of things in that situation that can go Meinum's way, it just doesn't happen to go her way in that moment. You have Dureco playing slightly over because she knows that there's a runner on first. So there's a little bit of bad luck, I'd say, there. But still a well-hit ball, still a good choice. So good adjustments there from Meinum. Haven't seen necessarily the offensive production from her that I know Tulsa is used to seeing.
There's a pitch missed high. I mentioned, how about these stats? Tulsa is 22-1 this year when they lead after 4 innings. 18-1 when they lead after 6 innings. The only loss they've had this year when they've led a game after 4 innings or more. As there's a bunt attempt, and the ball they point down. It's an automatic out. They say the ball hit the bat, and Bryers is out, and that will force Estacado to go back to second base. So Bryers unable to execute there on that bunt play, and that's kind of bad luck, right? The ball just bounced the bat here.
You just have to make sure, especially as a right-handed hitter, that you are bunting it far enough out in front. I mean, it's a fine line you walk, right? You have to bunt it far enough out in front so that your bat or your person doesn't get hit by the ball, but also not so far out to where it's easily fieldable.
Shannon Hughes will come to the plate, pardon me, on that. So with the runner still at second and 2 outs. I finished the thought. The one loss they've had this season was on the opening weekend of conference play on a Sunday, March 25th, at UCF in Orlando. The Tulsa had a 1-0 lead. Courtney Roden hit a 2-run homer off Emily Watson to left field with 2 outs and 2 strikes to give UCF a 2-1 win. UCF would go on to would sweep Tulsa, and really Tulsa that was a hole that Tulsa just couldn't get themselves out of this season, getting swept on the opening weekend of play by a very good UCF team. And that was kind of the challenge, and that really kind of hurt their chances of repeating as regular season champions, especially this year with the way the league has been. And that's why Tulsa ended up as the 6th seed.
Well, and you've seen so many. I mean, up until the very last weekend, there were 4 different teams who could have taken the title, right?
Yeah.
So it was Memphis, if all things had gone well their way. Houston needed Wichita State to win 2, and they had to sweep. USF, obviously, everything went great for them. Congratulations to that USF squad for winning the regular season title. So there were a number of things that had to go perfectly for a number of programs, but it was up in the air until the last minute. And I remember in one of the games that I called between USF and Tulsa, I said, this may be the deciding factor. This series depends on who ends up creating the momentum for the rest of the season and who ends up not performing up to snuff. And USF ended up winning the game, and look what happened.
And you mentioned it earlier. Last year the ball bounced their way. This year it didn't. You know, back in that UCF series, Emily Watson, the first game of the conference, had a perfect game going into the bottom of the 6th. As Riley Spell reps one in the 2nd, but right there to throw to first to retire the side. Kira Klarkowski broke up the perfect game with a solo homer to 6th. That's how UCF won that game, 1-0. So, but right now the ball's bouncing Tulsa's way as we're through 5 1/2. It's Tulsa 3, Wichita State 1 here on the American Digital Network.
7,000 student athletes rising to become champions in 21 different sports at 13 esteemed institutions across 11 states. 360,000 students and 2.6 million alumni rise up in celebration of a Power 6 conference known as the American.
Welcome in to the ADN studio. Hope your week is off to a great start. Thanks for tuning in to an all-new episode of The Rise.
And Mike Hughes, the kicker to beat. Do you believe it? Kareem Bruton Jr. for the win. Yes! The American Conference Championship. Bernie scores.
The next biggest game is our biggest game, and we've been doing that all year.
A game like this, you got to want to win the game. We get to the point to where, okay, we're all scratching the itch, waiting for college football to start.
How impressive is it that both of these programs have been here the last 4 years?
This ball is launched out and beyond left field. Bohm gets around on this one, up the line, that's fair.
I couldn't be prouder. I mean, this conference has just performed beyond anyone's expectations.
Welcome back here from the USF Softball Stadium. Eric Lopez here alongside Sydney Gerbrack. Heart of the order coming up for the Shockers here in the bottom of the 6th, and a swing and a miss by Lori Dureco. Will be followed by Bailey Lang and Riley Buck against Emily Watson here in the bottom of the 6th. Tulsa with 3 runs, 4 hits, and 1 error. Wichita State 1 run, 4 hits, and no errors. Watson, who has 9 strikeouts so far, gets a strike and that's quickly ahead 0-2. 9 strikeouts and 1 walk for Watson's through the first 5 innings here.
She has been incredibly effective, especially with that off speed we saw. She was able to get Derrico to take a hack. And then with that rise ball, too, she's been working that towards the end of the at-bats for that swing and miss 3rd strike. And one of the things that I love about softball is that the numbers in so many ways don't lie. And one of the things that we've seen from Derrico is she has been a consistent producer for this Wichita State team. And so she coming into this game, she's hitting .296, right? So this is her 3rd at bat. She's gone 0 for 2 today. This is the time when she is set. The numbers tell us that she's set to produce. So Going head-to-head here, I'm actually looking for Derico to have a little bit more of an advantage. Also, what's cool about Derico is that she is one of the silent leaders on this team. She does well in defensively, offensively. She's a leader, but she leads by example. She's not going to be one of those vocal players.
Grounded to third as Estacado throws to first to get the first out here in the 6th inning. And one of the things Watson has done here today, Sydney, has kept a lot of the leadoff hitters on for Wichita State out of the base pads. Wichita State, they seem to always feed off that, getting that leadoff runner on and opening up the inning for big innings. Watson, for the most part today, has kept the Wichita State leadoff hitters off the base pads.
That's true, and that means that the latter half of the lineup has really had to step up and perform. And I think that that also pays homage to the fact that there is depth in this lineup, that it doesn't necessarily have that run production doesn't necessarily have to come from the top.
Bailey Lang at the plate with a count of 0-1. That's outside for a ball. Of course, Emily Watson, a veteran at this, was the tournament MVP last year in Greenville, going 3-0 as Tulsa won the American Softball Championship for the 2nd year in a row, beating Houston 1-0 in a Classic Championship game. As Lang swings and misses, and the count is 1-2. The year prior in Tulsa, Watson pitched the quarterfinal game and beat East Carolina 1-0. So she's been known to, she's accustomed to pitching in very tight games throughout her career. She's won some big games for this program. As the 1-2, Lang went around, but they got to complete the strikeout, but Bell can't find the ball, and it goes to the backstop. And so Lang will reach on the strikeout.
Not something you see very often, not only from Watson with a pitch that's missed that far in the dirt, but also from Spell too, right? You don't see a ball get by Spell. A little bit of a miscue there by the Tulsa backstop.
Sometimes you just can't find that ball, and that's like the worst fears for a catcher. Riley Spell, who's named the Defensive Player of the Year in the American Conference yesterday. So it's a strikeout, but Lang gets on, and now Riley Buck, the sophomore, takes ball one. And again, going to that drop ball there, Watson, and got to be on the same page there, Spell, all of a sudden, to make sure to keep that ball in front of you.
And depending on where a player is standing in the box is really going to be a factor in where that ball is going to drop off the table. So you're going to have to shorten your step. You're going to have to release the ball in a different spot as a pitcher. And so Spell has to, like you said, Eric, has to be on the exact same page. Otherwise, that can be disastrous with runners in scoring position, and even with runners on base. You can give up a lot of free passes that way.
A ball and a strike to count to Riley Buck, who came in today hitting .313 with 6 homers and 28 RBIs. Has a home run against Watson earlier this year, but she swings and misses. They throw to first, nothing doing there. She hit a home run in one of those 2 Watson starts. In fact, it was in the Sunday game. It was one of the best games in conference this year, conference games, that Sunday afternoon. It was a doubleheader day because of weather issues. In that last game of that series, Wichita State led 2-0, only to see Tulsa come back to pull it out 3-2 with 3 runs in the top of the 7th as Buck fouls it off to stay alive. Shannon Hughes in that 7th inning hit a 2-run homer. Wichita State loaded the bases in the bottom of the 7th against Watson, but Watson was able to get Derico to ground out to second to end the game. It was one of the best games played in the conference this year. And here we are in their 50th all-time meeting, first ever in the American Conference Softball Championships, as Buck hits a pop-up and over by the foul line there at third base. Making the catch is Hughes, the shortstop, and Riley Buck, who's had a quiet day, pops out for the 2nd out of the inning. That'll bring up Bailey Nickerson to the plate. And right now the Shockers trying to get something going late. They've had some dramatic wins this season. 30 wins on the season, with wins against Arkansas, Oklahoma State. Beat Oklahoma State twice. As Nickerson takes a strike, and they couldn't add to it because they were scheduled to play Missouri in their final home game doubleheader, but Missouri bought themselves out of it. They paid $5,000 as the reports, according to many media outlets, to not play those games. And that tells you how much respect the Wichita State program has when teams are like, yeah, we maybe want to not go there, as there's a pop-up in foul territory, and the catch is made near the Tulsa dugout. What a catch by the first baseman, Stafford, to end the inning for the Golden Hurricane defensively. Wow. And after 6 here in Tampa, Tulsa still leads 3-1.
7,000 student athletes rising to become champions in 21 different sports at 13 esteemed institutions across 11 states. 360,000 students and 2.6 million alumni rise up in celebration of a Power 6 conference known as the American.
Welcome in to the ADN studio. Hope your week is off to a great start. Thanks for tuning in to an all-new episode of The Rise.
And Mike Hughes, the kicker to beat. Do you believe it? Kareem Bruton Jr. for the win. Yes! The American Conference Championship. Bernie scores.
The next biggest game is our biggest game, and we've been doing that all year.
A game like this, you got to want to win the game. We get to the point to where, okay, we're all scratching the itch, waiting for college football to start.
How impressive is it that both of these programs have been here the last 4 years?
This ball is launched out and beyond left field. Bohm gets around on this one, up the line, that's fair.
I couldn't be prouder. I mean, this conference has just performed beyond anyone's expectations.
There you see Torrey Stafford to lead it off very fittingly in the top of the 7th inning for Tulsa after making an incredible catch in foul territory at first base to send us here to the 7th inning. It's the second time today that Torrey Stafford's made a play like that in the foul territory at first base, getting Tulsa out of with a runner on and 2 outs. And Stafford takes a strike here to open in the 7th inning. 1-1 count facing Bailey Lang. Tulsa leading 3-1, 3 runs, 4 hits, and 1 error for Tulsa. 1 run, 4 hits, no errors for Wichita State.
And there's something to be said about a player that will not give up on the out.
And that's one behind Lang's glove, and that will be a hit for Torrey Stafford. What a game Stafford has had, and she rewards herself there with a hit, as Lang just was off balance there. And once it deflected off of her, none of the Shocker defense could do much about it.
Just not much. I mean, again, a well-hit ball back up the middle. Exactly what you're supposed to do with a ball that's caught a little bit too much of the white. Able to put it on the ground. Again, putting it on the ground is going to make a big difference for both of these teams. And Torrey Stafford, again, does her job. Yeah, I have to tip your hat to Stafford. She has really stepped up this game, and it's been really great to watch her make those game-changing plays, create some defensive momentum for her teammates, and then creating momentum still with her offensive
and to your point, as Witten's trying to bunt here, the count is 0-1. Now she swings away and hits it foul down the left side. A play like that where you make it right by the dugout at first base, it doesn't show up on the box score. But from that really does bring some momentum to the dugout. The players feed off of that, don't they?
Oh, yeah. And I mean, and that's one of the things that you can't get that from stats, right? You can't measure energy through statistics. And that's one of the things that is one of the great intangibles about a game like softball, is that energy and momentum are factors that are going to affect you pitch to pitch, inning to inning, and often are going to end up being the result between who wins and who loses.
A ball and 2 strikes that count to Witten. Stafford is at first base. And it's up and in. 2-2 the count. And when you're facing an explosive offense like Wichita State, you don't want to give them extra swings. So if you can make plays like that to limit their at-bats, that's a big plus. And that certainly Watson appreciated that, as the 2-2 is hit to third. Nice scoop by Maggie Wright. Wright will throw to second for 1. They'll throw to first. Not in time, but Mackenzie Wright, showing why she was the player there, not just with her bat, but could show her glove at third base as well. Gets the first out with a force out at second. And that'll bring up now Julia Hollingsworth, who's been the difference in this game with 3 RBIs.
And just a beautiful double play there again, Eric, I mean, I think you said it all, Mackenzie Wright, showing why she is the player that is well-rounded enough to be crowned the Conference Player of the Year. Well-deserving.
Great all-around player, as is Hollingsworth, as you see her right there. Hit the solo home run, the first at-bat of this game in the top of the first to give Tulsa the 1-0 lead, and then the 2 RBI triple in the 5th inning. She's 2 for 3 today. She's now 8 for 13 this season against Tulsa, against Wichita State pitching. That's remarkable. As a player, are you aware of that as you're playing, that there's a certain team, hey, I know, I just feel confident hitting against this team? Do you know that when you've had success?
You know, I would say yes, actually. I know that I can speak from personal experience. There were, I will actually use Tulsa as an example. My freshman year, I was hitting above 400 in conference at the time. And we had just come off our weekend at Memphis, and at the end of the season we played Tulsa, and I went 0 for 9, or like 1 for 9. And I remember that throughout my career, I always had a prickle on the back of my neck with Tulsa pitching because I didn't do well that first year. Now, it didn't necessarily always pan out that way. There were series I was successful and series that I wasn't, but I think there is something to be said about the fact that there are some pitchers and some programs that you feel like you hit really well against, that you're in your rhythm, and then there are other programs that you're a little bit more wary of what their pitchers are throwing. At the end of the day, though, hitting is 90% mental and the rest is all in your head. You have to be ironclad when it comes to knowing what you're great at and adjusting when your back is up against the wall.
Morgan Neal at the plate has a count of 2-1 after Hollingsworth did ground out to short. Runner at second in Stafford with 2 outs here in the 7th inning. Tulsa with a 3-1 lead as Neal takes ball 3. 3-1 to count. The junior Morgan Neal, of course, this junior class for Tulsa, they don't know anything other than to play in the softball championship game. They don't know what it's like to lose a conference tournament game. As Neal takes a walk with 2 outs, and now Tulsa has first and second for Shelby Estacado, who will come to the plate. And of course, Estacado, the senior class, only has 1 loss in the American Conference tournament. That was in the championship game in 2015, when Samantha McCloskey, the first baseman for the Knights, hit a walk-off home run off Caitlin Sill. And UCF won it 1-0. That was that dynamic UCF team led by Renee Lors-Gillespie. 50 wins that year. They were a nationally ranked team. 2 All-American pitchers, Shelby Turnier and Mackenzie Audis. But talking to the Tulsa people and Coach Barfield, that was a turning point for the program because from that point on, they grew up. That was a heartbreaking loss for them. They didn't make the NCAA tournament that year. And they used that as motivation for the next year. They won the tournament at home. They knocked out UCF on the way to the championship game, beat USF, made it to the NCAAs. And then last year they won the regular season title and the tournament title, becoming the second team to do it in the American Conference. UCF, that aforementioned 2015 team, did that, both the regular season and the tournament title. So this team knows how to win games, and they've been in this situation before where they know that they might need to win the tournament to get into the NCAA tournament. They have some great resume wins, including Oklahoma State. They won 2 out of 3 against Wichita State. They have a win at Houston. But Coach Barfield, they always like to play it as if, hey, your season's on the line, so let's just go win a tournament title. They've had experience playing with their backs against the wall.
That's true, and I think that there's something to be said for a team that can perform on, the season version of Championship Sunday, right? So we talk about in conference and in a collegiate softball season that you break it down into 3 parts, right? Preseason, conference, and then postseason. The same thing with a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday game. And being able to perform on that Championship Sunday game on that micro level makes a huge difference.
There's a fly ball by Estacado in foul territory, and the catch is made by Morgan Palmer. The left fielder stayed in after pinch running a couple of innings ago. She makes the catch to retire the side. Last chance for the Shockers. Tulsa leads 3-1 here on the American Digital Network.
7,000 student athletes rising to become champions. in 21 different sports at 13 esteemed institutions across 11 states, 360,000 students, and 2.6 million alumni. Rise up in celebration of a Power 6 conference known as the American.
Welcome into the ADN studio. Hope your week is off to a great start. Thanks for tuning in to an all-new episode of The Rise.
And Mike Hughes, the kicker to beat. Do you believe it? Kareem Bruton Jr. for the win. Yes! The American Conference Championship. Bernie scores.
The next biggest game is our biggest game, and we've been doing that all year.
A game like this, you got to want to win the game. We get to the point to where, okay, we're all scratching the itch, waiting for college football to start.
How impressive is it that both of these programs have been here the last 4 years?
This ball is launched out and beyond left field. Bohm gets around on this one, up the line, that's fair.
I couldn't be prouder. I mean, this conference has just performed beyond anyone's expectations.
There you see Emily Watson, the All-American from last year, the reigning American Conference Pitcher of the Year from last year, looking to send the Golden Hurricane to the semifinal, as they are the two-time defending tournament champions. She opens her first pitch to Madison Perrigan, low for a ball. 1-0 the count. It'll be Perrigan, Llewellyn, and Jameli are the scheduled hitters. 7, 8, 9. Mackenzie Wright would hit, the new American Conference Player of the Year would hit if somebody gets on here in the bottom of the 7th for the Shockers. One and one the count to Perrigan with nobody on here in the bottom of the 7th. Watson on the 1-1. That's foul back, and the count is 1 and 2. One and 2 the count with Emily Watson. Eric Lopez here alongside Sydney Gerbrack. First game of 4 games today, the first day of the American Softball Championships. As Watson delivers in the dirt for a ball, and the count is 2 and 2 to Perrigan. And if you're the Shockers, you just want to get somebody on and kind of get off to a good start. You see the rally caps on there. Sydney, were you a rally cap person when you were playing? Is the 2-2. It's a liner and a base hit for a single, a leadoff single for Perrigan, and a good start for the Shockers here in the bottom of the 7th.
Well, and there goes Perrigan again, making sure that as an offensive contributor, you know, she was able to get the rally going last inning. Huge difference maker so far today in the bottom of the lineup.
So now Paige Llewellyn swings at the first pitch and fouls it off down the right side. And she represents the tying run with a runner at first.
And we talked previously, Eric, about how important it was going to be for Wichita State, how their entire lineup needed to produce, and because the top of their lineup, where they've gotten the most production, has not been able to do it thus far this game. They've really relied on the lower half, and Perrigan has been a perfect example of stepping up into that role, having gone 2 for 3 today, and she was integral in the 5th inning to putting that one run up on the board and getting things started here late now, trying to see if the Shockers can at least tie it up to keep this game going.
1 ball and 1 strike the count. Runner at first here, and Watson delivers. And that one just missed. 2 and 1 now to count to Llewellyn, the senior. First the Shockers trying to make a comeback here against Tulsa. This is the 50th all-time meeting between these two. Having another memorable matchup here today. 2 balls and a strike. Watson delivers. Upstairs, 3-1. Good discipline right now from Llewellyn.
Now, if every Wichita State player had the discipline on that rise ball that Llewellyn was just able to show us, this would be a very different ball game.
So Riley Spell now is going to talk to Watson, and I think this is more about just making sure they're on the same page here. Do you think here, the conversation?
Well, and she's also thrown a lot more pitches this inning. I mean, she did not start off as sharply this inning as we've seen in the past. So, you know, there might be a little bit of just a little bit of fatigue there, both mentally and physically. And so, you know, Spell is known for being able to go out and tell Watson, hey, get it together. Let's make this happen. Only have a couple pitches left, and so she's not afraid to say how it is. Ooh.
And almost an incredible catch, and Stafford goes down into the dugout at Tulsa, and you hope she's okay. What an effort for Tori Stafford, and she landed, but she is smiling. That's a great sign. What an effort. What a game she's had there. Almost made another incredible catch at first base here, Sydney.
I mean, I am so impressed with the effort that Stafford had shown and the commitment she has to playing behind Watson and for this Tulsa squad. So impressive she's able to, you know, make plays that have made a huge difference earlier in this game, but, you know, not afraid to run through that dugout.
Well, isn't that the signature play, what postseason softball is all about?
Yes.
Isn't it? Leaving it all on the field, right there.
Absolutely.
And a swing and a miss. And Llewellyn goes down on strikes. 11th strikeout for Watson, who has had 4 straight games. Her last 4 starts have been at least 10 strikeouts or more. And she picks up her 11th right there in Llewellyn.
And she just doesn't do anything extra there, right? So she just focuses on her bread and butter, throws the curve, hits her spot, gets the called strike. Or excuse me, gets the swing and miss strike. And I also want to come back to that energy piece. We talked about how important that was going to be, not only for Watson and setting the pace for her team while they're on defense, but with Tori Stafford, she actually gave her team a little bit of momentum, even though she didn't catch that ball. And something that can fuel Emily Watson's fire, and that ended up going their way. So again, even though it didn't necessarily go their way, her dedication to the team and her commitment to creating that momentum made a huge difference.
Caitlin Bingham is the pinch hitter. She's hitting in the 9th spot for Gemelli. So they're going to the bench here, and Bingham, pinch hitting, right-handed hitter here with a runner at first and 1 out. Here in the bottom of the 7th, Tulsa with a 3-1 lead.
And for Wichita State, what I love to see is that they're allowing their pitchers to hit, right? Caitlin Bingham is their second in line, or has been for the majority of the season. Hasn't done as well in the past couple weekends of conference. But she has been their number 2 all season long, and she also hits for herself.
In fact, she was the one that she pitched well against Tulsa in that series in the regular season. She swings and misses here. And the count is 1-2. As Watson digging in here with a runner at first and 1 out here in the bottom of the 7th. A 3-1 lead for Tulsa. Watson looks at the sign from her catcher Spell. And delivers the 1-2. Getting a piece of it there is Bingham. And the freshman stays alive. Glad you could join us wherever you are on the American Digital Network. This is the first of 4 games. Hard to believe. If anything's going to be like today, this first game, we're in for a treat. East Carolina and Houston will follow this game as the 1-2. It's a swing and a miss as Bingham goes down on strikes. That's 12 strikeouts for Watson. And 2 outs. And the Shockers are down to their last at-bat. And it'll be the American Conference Player of the Year. Mackenzie Wright will come to the plate as the tying run to the represented.
What I would give to see Mackenzie Wright just rope one out.
There's a strikeout there by Watson, and you've got Art right now, one of the great pitchers of all time in Tulsa softball history against one of the great players in Wichita State softball history. Mackenzie Wright and Emily Watson. It's what it's all about here when you get to postseason. As Watson starts it off with a strike, 0-1 the count on Wright, who has 1 for 3 today with a single and has struck out in this game. Perrigan is at first base. 2 outs here in the 7th. The winner of this game will advance to the semifinals tomorrow at 2 o'clock against the winner of Houston and East Carolina. Watson on the 0-1 in the dirt, ball 1. 1-1 the count.
We've seen Watson miss in the dirt for the past couple opening pitches of the at-bats that she's thrown. So not sure exactly what's happening there, but she's a little bit of a lack of precision there.
1-1 is high. 2-1 now the count to Mackenzie Wright. Wright leading this Shocker offense. 377 for the season coming into this game today. That's 4 home runs on the year. Is ahead of the count, 2-1. As Watson delivers upstairs, and who knows? I mean, these two have faced each other in the regular season prior to being conference rivals. They've obviously been rivals. Again, these two schools separated only 175 miles. They've battled through the regular season. Both are accustomed to being in the postseason. And here in a battle here. 3 balls and a strike to Wright. Runner at first, 2 outs. And the pitch outside, ball 4, and a walk to Wright, which will bring up Asia Weber. I thought looked like there Watson was extra careful with Mackenzie Wright. Did you see that? It looked like she wasn't as aggressive going after Wright. Maybe feels more comfortable going after Asia Weber, who's coming to the plate. Although actually, I mean, there won't be Asia Weber, it looks like, because it's going to be a pinch hitter. Ashton Esparza, a freshman, is going to pinch hit here for Weber. But do you agree with me? I thought there that she was extra careful, right? There, and every team always identifies a player that they want to make sure they don't beat them, right?
Yep, and you know, I think that there's two schools of thought, right? So you want to be a little bit more careful, maybe take a little bit of extra care, or you go at them as hard as you can. And I saw Emily Watson take her foot off the gas pedal a little bit, and I'm confused as to why she would do that, because at the end of the day, she's an outstanding pitcher. She has beat teams that players that statistically have better numbers, or just all around maybe better. And I am surprised that was her reaction.
Well, I think it shows how much respect she has for Wright.
I think so too.
The 0-1, a swing and a miss, and quickly ahead 0-2 on Esparza. It shows you the respect they have. She's faced against Wright for 4 years. Now she's taking her chances here against the freshman Esparza, pinch hitting here with a count of 0-2. First and second, 2 outs here in the bottom of the 7th. Watson delivers. High, ball 1.
We're finally seeing the Wichita State team has decided they're going to lay off that rise ball. Discipline first showed by Paige Llewellyn.
A ball and 2 strikes the count. And delivery, the swing and a miss. She struck her out. And the Tulsa Golden Hurricane advance to the semifinals as they knock off the Wichita State Shockers by a final score of 3-1. 3 runs, 6 hits, 1 error for Tulsa, 1 run, 5 hits and no errors for Wichita State. The Golden Hurricane will advance to the semifinal. We'll be back with some post-game interviews as Haley Outen will join us as the Tulsa Golden Hurricane advance to the semifinals of the American Softball Championships here on the American Digital Network.
7,000 student athletes rising to become champions in 21 different sports at 13 esteemed institutions across 11 states. 360,000 students and 2.6 million alumni rise up in celebration of a Power 6 conference known as the American.
Welcome in to the ADN studio. Hope your week is off to a great start. Thanks for tuning in to an all-new episode of The Rise.
And Mike Hughes, the kicker to beat. Do you believe it? Kareem Jr. for the win. Yes!
The American Conference Championship. Bernie scores.
The next biggest game is our biggest game, and we've been doing that all year.
A game like this, you got to want to win the game. We get to the point to where, okay, we're all scratching the itch, waiting for college football to start.
How impressive is it that both of these programs have been here the last 4 years?
This ball is launched out and beyond left field. Bohm gets around on this one, up the line, that's fair.
I couldn't be prouder. I mean, this conference has just performed beyond anyone's expectations.
There you see the victorious Tulsa Golden Hurricane advancing to the semifinals, and one of the big reasons why is joining our Haley Outen down on the field. Take it away, Haley.
Yeah, it is a big change. I know, I'm like, where are you from? I'm from Texas. I'm now joined by Tulsa outfielder Julia Hollingsworth. Julia, on just the second pitch of today's game, you were able to hit a home run. What was your thought process walking up to the plate to get this tournament started for your team?
Well, I just wanted to find a ball that could square up and start the team off on the right foot.
Starting the tournament off on such a high note with your third home run of the year, how did that impact your confidence at the plate the rest of the game?
I thought I was seeing it really well. You know, it's always great to start off like that, but like I said, I'm just trying to square something up every time I go up, so it was a pretty nice feeling.
Your pitcher, Emily Watson, 13 strikeouts today. How much does this team rely on her consistency day in and day out?
Just, you know, the confidence that she has. She's able to pick us up if we're not hitting the ball. I mean, she's shutting things down on defense. It gives us a little bit more time, just, you know, figure our offense out and, you know, relax a little bit.
6 seed playing in a single elimination format here in the conference tournament. How does your team use its previous experience from championships past to drive you this week?
Well, my freshman year when we won, we came out and as a low seed. So I think, you know, we play best with our backs against the wall. So I choose my girls. I mean, obviously there's great teams that are here throughout the whole season. I mean, there's just been incredible plays and incredible games, but I think, you know, we play best with our backs against the wall, and I'm ready to see what happens.
Thanks a lot, Julia. Good luck in the semifinal.
Thank you.
Thanks, Haley. And the Tulsa Golden Hurricane advance to the semifinals as they defend their two-time defending champs. Julia Hollingsworth, big part of it, with a tremendous game today. And you see it right there, Cindy. Julia Hollingsworth getting things started with that home run.
Oh, and it made a huge difference for her, at least for Tulsa, to score early. Offensive execution across the board from Tulsa, and especially from Julia Hollingsworth. She was responsible for all 3 runs that we saw here today. And that putting balls on the ground, that timely hitting was the biggest difference maker. For Watson, defensively, making sure that she was on. She wasn't relying too heavily on strikeouts, even though she got 12 or 13. Tori Stafford making some game-changing plays on some foul balls. All around, a great performance from Tulsa, and excited to see what they do in the semifinals.
Emily Watson with 13 strikeouts today. Unbelievable performance for Watson, who remains undefeated as a starter in her career in the American Softball Tournament. She will now certainly be ready tomorrow as Tulsa will play in the first semifinal at 2 o'clock tomorrow against the winner of our next game, which will be the number 2 seed Houston Cougars against the 7th seed East Carolina Pirates. Thanks to our great crew at the American Digital Network. For Haley Outen and, of course, my partner, Sydney Gerbrack, I'm Eric Lopez. We'll see you soon for our next game between Houston and East Carolina. Final score here from Tampa. Tulsa 3, Wichita State 1. The Golden Hurricane advanced to the semifinals of the American Softball Championships here on the American Digital Network.